already on the brink.
There's just so many worries upon worries.
Just an incredible amount of stress.
It's like a never-ending cycle of just trying to do everything.
The last thing locked down families needed was another blow.
Yeah, look, I want to apologise for any confusion that was there, any lack of clarity.
The Victorian Premier forced to clarify after widespread confusion around new childcare restrictions announced over the weekend.
Professor Sutton has signed orders that come into effect tonight that mean one parent in a household who is an authorised worker will mean you are eligible for a childcare permit.
The childcare being closed just makes it 100 times harder than it already is homeschooling.
New South Wales parents today also dealt a brutal reality check.
If your children are being homeschooled at the moment, of course, that will continue. That's a whole month notice we've given already. But in relation to beyond that, we have to wait for the formal advice.
Childcare too, strongly discouraged by the CHO last week.
If they're just working from home, that wouldn't be, in my mind, a reason to do it.
Hearing her say that felt like a bit of a punch in the guts, and I had a big old cry. Just this huge moment of, oh my God, how am I going to do this?
One by one, crucial supports are being stripped away, and working mums are carrying the lion's share of the load.
The predominant impact is on female workforce participation, and that's because it's predominantly women who pick up that extra care requirement and burden on the families.
I've had to reduce my 3-day-a-week work to 1 day a week just to be able to manage homeschooling, and now to be able to manage having a 2-year-old home full time.
The long-term effects will be huge. Individually, hits to superannuation and career progression. Collectively, it's predicted COVID could set workplace gender equality back 5 years.
Women are retracting from the workforce and maybe engaging in more casual part-time work. What that means is they're not necessarily using their full skill set, and they'll pay the price in the long term in terms of their economic security.
So how do we find a balance between keeping our kids safe and keeping women on track? Well, CEO of the Grattan Institute, Danielle Wood, has done a report into the impact of the COVID crisis on Australian women, and she joins us now. Danielle, it does feel like families are at breaking point at the moment. Homeschooling, childcare closed, having to catch up on work at 7 p.m. once you've put the kids to bed. How disproportionate will the impact be, though, on women compared to men, do you think?
It's a really important question. So we know that in lockdowns themselves, we do really see a disproportionate impact on women. Both because they're actually more likely to lose jobs in hours because they're disproportionately employed in the kind of face-to-face sectors that are shut down in lockdowns, like hospitality and arts and retail, but also because of that big rise in unpaid care work that you just touched on because of homeschooling, because of childcare closures. Women tend to take on more. And what we see is that the longer a lockdown goes for, the more likely that woman might make permanent choices. So things like cutting back hours, taking a less demanding role, leaving the workforce altogether. And that's when you get these kind of longer term effects beyond the lockdown that we're all really worried about.
We're in the middle of this, Danielle. The economists tell us that the economy will bounce back quickly and it'll all be fine in a few months' time. When you did your research and you do project forward, what's the long-term impact for women on things like job security, gender balance and all of those other issues?
The longer this goes on, the more likely we're going to get those scarring effects and the more likely that you get that long-term hit to women's earnings. So women with children already earn $2 million less on average over their lifetime than men with children. Another 6 months out of the workforce can add 100,000 to that gap. So these have really long-term powerful impacts.
So obviously school and childcare are a very big part of this, but given the way that Delta is spreading amongst kids, can you think of a policy that addresses or limits the damage you're kind of talking about but wouldn't lead to a health catastrophe?
Yeah, it's a wicked problem, and I know that parents are very respectful of that health concern and very worried about their children catching this as well. Look, I think there's a lot that's going to come down onto employers. I think, as an employer, you need to recognise and make flexibility the default here. I would like to see single parents classed as essential workers. I think they have the most difficult task here, and I don't think we should be disproportionately putting the cost of these lockdowns onto single parents. But I think we actually do need a longer-term plan around schools and childcares as well. We need to be looking at things like rapid antigen testing, ways in which we can try and make those environments as safe as possible, but without resulting to wholesale lockdowns, for the months and months to come.
Danielle, before we let you go, I know you've been hit by Victoria's childcare restrictions. How are you going?
Yes, look, I'm in an okay situation. I've only got one young daughter. My husband will do 50%, so I'm taking the 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift. He's on the 1 p.m. onward shift, and I think, like many parents, I'll be sort of shaving off a bit of my sleep to try and make it all work.
It's a tough time, Danielle. I think so many people are at breaking point at the moment. Hang in there, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad we got you in your window that you get to work, Danielle, to chat to you tonight.
Thanks very much.
Danielle, if you like, you can just Zoom some friends and pretend you're still talking to us for the next half hour. Whatever you need, just hit that door locked behind you.
Have a nap if you want.
I'll just mix a cocktail.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks, guys. See you.
God, I hope the family's not watching.
Yes.
We all need a bit of a laugh. But when you look at this, the two biggest states in the country right tonight, women with toddlers and school-aged children are staring at the fact that there'll be no childcare or school between now and the end of the year.
A lot of my friends I've spoken to and colleagues, for the first time I feel like they've reached their tipping point. They don't know how they're going to get any work done with young children at home. It's going to be up to employers to be flexible and realise that it's virtually impossible. And the thing is, because there's still so many months to go, it's just getting harder and harder to maintain the rhythm and keep everything, going on the home front, keep your kids okay, keep your employers happy. There's just a lot for women to do.
But unlike last year where you could see there would be an end, this is not going to happen this year with schooling. And Gladys Berejiklian was pushed on this today, and she would not say whether school would open between now and the end of the year.
I think we're forgetting last year it didn't look like there was going to be an end, actually. I think it's more that you hear again, like it's the accumulated effect of it that's what makes it so hard. Yeah. From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.